Good morning, and welcome to Ark and Dove Presbyterian Church in beautiful Odenton, Maryland. I'm Brian Boudreau, the clerk of session here at Ark and Dove, and your host in the lobby, the weekly broadcast of the goings-on in Ark and Dove. So there's a lot of stuff in the news about voting and voting by mail. So I've actually asked a special guest to come and join me today so that we can talk about that. But before we get to that, let's dive into some of our announcements. Today is the 12th Sunday after Pentecost, and it's Communion Sunday. So let's take a moment to get our bread and our wine or grape juice ready. Now, have you filled out your CAT survey yet? Today is the last day for the long-range planning team's CAT survey, so we desperately need you to fill those out. This is your last call. We are still pretty far behind of our goal of 150 surveys. Right now, we have about 110 completed, so please take a moment or a couple and fill out the survey. The survey is important for the team's discernment on how to move forward with reopening and shaping the path forward for Ark and Dove over the next 3 to 5 years. As we move toward in-person services with a date still yet to be determined, Pastor Tim has shared in the e-archive a draft covenant for all in-person attendees that they'll have to sign. We welcome your input in reviewing the covenant. The most important thing is that we do this safely and with the support and understanding of the congregation. So any input that you have can be sent to the email address below. Remember, we are the body of Christ. And I will also note that even as we transition to in-person worship, we will continue to have the live stream service. This will not go away. Now, have you made your donation to the Anne Arundel Back to School Backpack Program? Every year, Ark and Dove delivers more than 60 backpacks to local schools for children in need. But this year, with the virtual learning going into place, we are transitioning to a fund so we can help purchase equipment and supplies in this new learning environment. This is a really good cause for supporting students in need locally. You can text the EFT number with school and the amount you would like to donate. Now, PCUSA has designated August 24th through 30th as a week of action to celebrate that. Ark and Dove is going to hold a peaceful demonstration on Tuesday, August 25th from 4 to 7 p.m. at the bottom of the drive, right where the Dismantle Racism, Black Lives Matter banners are. So what's more, the Kingdom Celebration will be joining us. So let's show our support in a safe, socially distanced event. We can use a lot more attendees. And if you're worried about a sign, there are plenty here at the church. New to our calendar of events is the Healing Through Grief in the Time of COVID session. This will be held on September 9th at 7 p.m. via Zoom. The regular hosts, Pastor Tim and Lenny Gardner, will be also joined by Deacon Kathy Debus. You can email Pastor Tim or Lenny Gardner for a Zoom invitation. And don't forget all the other Zoom activities that we have going on at this time that are in the e-archive and on the website. That includes the Sunday Fellowship of after the live stream service at 11:15, the Saturday game night with the deacons, the Friendly Seniors Tea at 3 every Thursday, and Sunday Summer School. So let's turn to our guest today. Ed Barrett is joining me, and when I first talked to him and asked him to join us, he must have been scratching his head. I wanted to talk to him about voting, and in particular, mail-in voting. But he's extremely resourceful, and if there's anybody who can dig up facts, it's Ed. So welcome, Ed. Thanks for joining us today. How is the family doing? I think you've been pretty busy lately.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brian. Yeah, we've been pretty busy. We just moved Connor out to Colorado. We got a job as a chemist out there. And as you can see from my hat, I spent, well, you can't see from my hat, I spent most of my day today on the University of Maryland campus, moving Nick and Jenna into their new digs. So even though their classes are going to be almost exclusively online, they're still both going to be living on campus, at least temporarily, hopefully for a little bit. So we'll see how it goes. But it's been a crazy busy summer, but it's been really cool to watch the kids kind of grow up a little bit. Katie's just graduated from Maryland, so we've had 3 go through that school, and then Towson for Con. So she just got a cool job in Northern Virginia. So pretty soon we're going to be empty nesters. It's going to be weird. We're going to go from 4 to nothing in no time flat.
Wow. Well, we wish them the best of luck and hope they have a great beginning of the year. So I wanted to talk to you about voting in November, and more precisely, mail-in voting. And so I think you've maybe brought a special guest for us to maybe answer questions.
Yeah. So the truth is, as you said, I went out, and after Ellen asked me to do that, I went did some research. I haven't, I used to work for Senator Van Hollen, but it's been a few years since I've been on that side of the street. So what I did, kind of like in the movie Elf, when they absolutely have to get the job done right, we went out and got Miles Finch. So what I did was I called my friend Councilman Andrew Pruski, and he was nice enough to say that he would come join us. So I'd like to bring him into the conversation as well. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you all. Councilman Andrew Pruski here. I really appreciate this invite and happy to always come to Ark and Dove. I remember actually providing a citation to the church when they had your anniversary, and always good to celebrate with each of you. Great church, great community, and thank you for all the work that you do.
Well, great. Thank you. We're so happy that you could be here. I'm really excited. So let's dive right into this because there's a lot of stuff swirling out there. Share with us, how do I register to vote by mail?
Yep. So there's a lot of confusion right now, and I think the first thing I need to kind of lay out is that the primary is over with. Primaries are for major political parties or others that pick their candidate. And unlike the primary where every voter received a ballot in the mail, the general election is where every voter is going to receive a vote by mail application. So I make this analogous when people understand when I say mail-in ballot, that's the same thing as an absentee ballot. So for our military folks who are out of the country, someone is not home, they're caring for someone, those are synonymous. And what will happen is the governor has said there isn't the mail-in ballots that you're going to be getting to everyone. However, every registered voter currently will get that ballot, be able to return it to the Board of Elections. It will have postage on it, everything there, so there's no cost. And then what will happen is that prepaid envelope gets returned. If it's returned by October 20th, you will receive a regular ballot, be able to vote, and either drop that off or mail it through the regular postal service. After you receive that ballot, you can place it in the mail. As I said, it's got to be postmarked by November 3rd. And then you could also deliver your ballot to the Board of Elections, or there'll be 28 ballot drop boxes located throughout the county. Drop boxes have 24-hour surveillance. There's security cameras that are there. There's also police that are there, and they'll also be emptied twice a day. There is a link that I will share with you, and I'm sure your folks can share with the church about all this in a summary, but that's kind of how you vote by mail, really, is to fill out that application. Now, if you don't want to wait for the Board of Elections to mail that to you, you actually go on the Anne Arundel Board of Elections website and request that earlier. That's totally up to you. There's also a printed copy where you can get it, but ultimately you will have an application to fill out to receive a mail-in ballot. You have to fill that out in order to get it. It's not coming to you. So.
Okay, so if I've registered when I got my driver's license, say, do I have to register again?
No. So one of the things that you can do, a lot of people do this, will call the Board of Elections or either stop by to make sure they are registered. There are some independent websites that also have that information because it's public knowledge. So what I would do if someone is concerned that they're not registered, I think the best thing to do would just give the Board of Elections a call. They'll ask for basic information. Also, that public data is obviously listed. It's very easy to register, though. You can print an online application. A lot of people, like me, when they re-register their license, will go to the MVA or other things like that and do that. But yes, that's the best way to kind of check to see if you are registered. The one thing I do want to highlight, too, is I've had people ask me, either due to military, change of life, residency, different philosophy, if they wanted to change their party to vote in primaries, or they just want to change their party in general. Obviously, they have to do that. It just doesn't automatically happen. So it's kind of re-registering. So if you're registered, you want to change that, you can and have to do that on your own.
So if I wanted to get an absentee ballot, as you've described, do I have to justify it? Is it, especially, with all the COVID?
No, there is no justification. Even before, I think a lot of people don't know this, we have states like Colorado and Oregon that have been voting by mail for, I'd have to check the facts, but it's probably 10 to 15 years. And it's very successful. They've either had the mail-in or drop boxes. So that's checked. Also, what a lot of people don't understand is that your signature has to go on that ballot. I mentioned that for two reasons. Number one, you need to make sure it's signed because your vote doesn't count if it's not signed. Secondly, your signature is a legal item. So when people say that people are going to vote and they don't have a signature or whatever else, it doesn't count. So obviously legally there's a check there, and they have those, they scan those in, double check that. So there is a way to do that as well. So no, you do not need a special cause. Everyone should go on their own. Particularly with COVID, we're encouraging people to do the vote by mail absentee just for health reasons. Obviously we don't want large groups going to the polls and other things, but yes, there is no reason for you to have to do that.
Okay, so once I register for vote by mail, when will I get my ballot?
So the ballot request has to be received by October 20th. What I can't tell you, and I'm just going to be candid with you, is how quickly you'll get it in the mail. I am telling people that if you want to register early and print it off the website from the Anne Arundel County Board of Elections or the link that I sent you all in the chat, do that as soon as possible, and you'll probably get it sooner rather than others. The first one's in, obviously first one's out. I'm not going to lie, and I don't want to get into the politics of it, but there has been some delays for Postal Service. I don't know if any of you've noticed, especially sorting in mail. I've noticed with my own mail, it's about 3 or 4 days. So it's not like the service isn't working, but there's definitely been an impact based upon certain things that have occurred with the post office. So I would say, if I could tell you a date, I could, but I'll say as soon as possible, obviously, to get that. So I'm thinking probably late October or so is when it will come in the mail.
So what you're saying, though, is if you're concerned about the not getting it in time, if you're concerned, if you've got some other concerns, you can actually go online, register, print off the ballot, vote, and then turn it in to the ballot box in one of those locations.
And let me go back and be clear, though. So what you're registering for is the mail-in ballot to come to you. So you have to do that first process. I know this is where it gets confusing. You first have to request it. It doesn't automatically come to you like we did in the primary. So again, the request in terms of what you're filling out is either online by printing the application, which is the website I sent you, or you will get a copy for that same application. The governor has agreed to that. That comes to everybody's house. But you do have to submit that in order to get that mail-in ballot. So you have to do that first step first, then you get it, and then you can vote.
Thank you for the clarification. That was really good to know. Yeah. So in this area, where can I vote then? Early voting and on election day?
Yep. So there'll be 8 days of early voting from October 26th to November 2nd. Polls will be open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. There are 7 early voting sites in Anne Arundel County. And here's what's a little bit different. You can vote at any of them. Before, you'd have to go to a certain area or region. You can go to any of them. The ones that are closest to Ark and Dove, and of course me and our community, are going to be Arundel High School and Crofton Middle School in West County. So those will be the 2 early voting sites.
So I really have just one last question. I've heard that because of COVID, a lot of senior election judges are unable to participate this year. Is that true? And should I be an election judge?
So I would say a couple of things. Remember, we usually have a lot more election sites, and they've been reduced because of COVID. And I did talk to Joe Torrey from the Anne Arundel Board of Elections even prior to COVID, and we were starting to have issues, with people volunteering. You do get paid, obviously, but there is a process. We encourage you to do that. If someone does want to help, there will be PPE. So obviously mask, sanitizer, and other things provided. I don't know what people are going to do in terms of the election. Certainly citizenry have a choice where you want to do the mail-in ballot, or you can go to a poll or a site, either during the early voting period or election day. But yes, election judges are very short right now. We are pushing to do it. One of the things that I've always said, and I've had several interns from Arundel High School, if you've just graduated from high school or you're about to, please check the Anne Arundel Board website, because if you are 18, you can also be an election judge. And typically colleges and universities, banks, other things are closed. Not every business. I don't want to say that, because obviously there are certain businesses that are open. But if you don't mind, I do want to talk about election day as well before we wrap up, and to keep, to get into that. So polling places on election day are 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. There are 28 of those on election day. And again, you can vote at any of them. Polling places in West County on election day, are Crofton Middle, Crofton Elementary, Meade High, Arundel High, and Brockbridge Elementary School, which is over in Laurel Russet. The Board of Elections will be sending out mailings this fall So what happens is all this information I'm giving you, you're still going to get an informational packet, sample ballot, all those kind of things. And remember, this is a general election. Unlike the primary, where a lot of people said I couldn't vote for a judge because I wasn't registered for a party, or I'm not, I don't see these candidates on my ballot. You vote for everyone. This is a general election, so obviously you have that. But thank you, Brian, for mentioning that if you have the ability and you can volunteer to be an election judge, and particularly, you mentioned this to me earlier, if you are a federal employee, you can be an election judge. They do allow that. Obviously, it's a non-political office. You're just, being a citizen, doing your job. So I certainly encourage people to do that. But if you do have a concern, either with health, COVID, totally respect, understand. It's a volunteer position, and that's all. So.
Great. Well, great. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming in, Councilman Pruski. And Ed, thank you. You're very resourceful. I think we're really, really blessed, and I feel reassured now.
I was going to say, I did have a couple of things I wanted to add, just so I'm not here to introduce Andrew. Three good places. If you're wondering yourself, am I registered? What if you have any questions after the piece that Andrew just offered, the Maryland State Board of Elections website, the Maryland Attorney General's website, and the League of Women Voters website are three very helpful, very useful things. And especially if you're not sure, like every year, I'm sure I'm registered when I get my specimen ballot, when I get that practice ballot in the mail. That's a good indicator that I'm registered. If you don't get one of those, or in this case this year, if you don't get the vote by mail that's going to be sent out, that should be the clue to most people. Ooh, something might be wrong, and then we can get into provisional voting and things like that. And that stuff's all on those websites if you're wondering about it. So I would just add that the information is out there. It's not hidden, it's not secret. So if you have any questions at all, and the only last thing I would add, do this as early in the process as you can do this. We don't know all the weird stuff that can happen between now and then. We could have storms like we had last week. The earlier you get this stuff done, the better off you'll be.
That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. So, we've got lots of folks in the congregation here who have information, have knowledge about elections. If you have any questions about that, please don't hesitate to reach out to the church, and we can put you in touch with people. So thank you again, gentlemen. Really appreciate it. I just want to mention that 12 of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were Presbyterian, including the only clergyman to sign the Declaration of Independence, John Witherspoon. So Presbyterian participation in the American political process goes all the way back to the beginning of our country. So let's continue that tradition. Don't forget to join us after the service for the Sunday Fellowship via Zoom. If you don't have the Zoom invitation yet, which is the same one from last week and the week before, you can email fellowship@arkandove. And don't forget, you need to fill out those surveys if you haven't done that. I'll see you on Tuesday for the demonstration, and if I don't see you then, I'll see you next Sunday. The live stream service will begin momentarily.